Ready to go. Okay. I think we're ready to go. So welcome everyone to today's webinar on managing your boards and vacancies in the digital age. We're happy to have you join us today for today's session. So kind of want to dive right in on this one. I'll pass things over to George, my colleague here, for a couple of introductions as we kick things off.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks everyone that took the time to attend today's session. I guess it would be a good afternoon to most of the attendees and maybe some good mornings. So we really appreciate you guys taking the time to join us today for today's session. It's about managing or dealing with managing your boards in the digital age. My name is George Atia. I am most of your client development specialist. I've been with the company for about 5 years now. Spent about 9 years in technology sales and hopefully still going. Based out of Montreal. A couple interesting facts about me. I'm recently a new father to a beautiful little daughter. Really love me a good fantasy novel. Nothing I would have ever expected to say in high school, but sort of grew on me later on in life. And nickname among friends is MacGyver. Apparently, I'm a pretty resourceful guy. A lot of my coworkers don't know this, so yeah. Also with us, we have Chris Fagu.
Yeah.
I'll let Chris introduce himself.
Thanks, George. So my name is Chris Fagu. I am a senior customer success manager here at eScribe. So essentially, your main point of contact if you're in my realm, as I'm your customer success manager, or you might be with some of my other colleagues as well in the customer success management team. But I've been with the organization for 12 years this year. So kind of worked my way up from support into onboarding now and kind of the customer success role here. I am based out of Markham, Ontario, so about 20 minutes north of Toronto. So just a little bit, not far from the city, but could be a trek in with all the traffic and so on if you're familiar with Toronto, especially now with all the arteries being closed here in certain times. But a couple of fun facts for me as well. I am currently 9 3/4 years old. Looking forward to the big 10-0 double digits next year when there's a leap year. So kind of been bugged throughout my my years about when I'm hitting double digits. So next year, kind of the big year of double digits. I am a huge shark aficionado. Basically, my sister showed me Jaws when I was a kid, scared the lights out of me with it, but started a fascination with the animal, and then Jaws turned into my favorite movie of all time in terms of that. And Shark Week has been kind of an annual tradition here since we were kind of kids visiting my family in Florida. We kind of plan our summer holidays trekking down there around Shark Week, so it kind of became a huge thing in the household. And then I am a huge Jeopardy and Simpsons nerd. So I watch Jeopardy every day. Kind of a lot of useless facts roaming around in my head. And just a lot of my sense of humor comes from the early Simpsons, probably seasons 1 to 14 is kind of my era. But just a couple fun facts about me on that front. But
Chris is also very self-aware.
Yes. Thanks, George. For today's agenda, we had a bit of an introduction to me and George and our roles here at eScribe. We're going to kind of roll into how boards and vacancies are currently managed in the space, and then look at some of those challenges that people are having when managing boards, committees, and vacancies, and so on. And then we'll kind of go into managing like boards in a digital age, see how solutions and tools can help streamline your processes and really get some productivity back into your time. And then we'll have a look at a demo. George will be driving that side of things so you can really see what a board manager or our board manager solution looks like and how that can benefit you in terms of your boards and member recruitment. Then we'll wrap up with a summary of what's available to you, and then wrap up with a question and answer period. I do say, hey, if you do have any questions, please utilize the question and answer box or text field as opposed to the chat. That way we can easily answer your questions when it comes to the question and answer period. But how about we kind of dive right in on things? So how are boards and vacancies managed now? So in speaking with some resources on their current methods, we found that there was no definitive process when it comes to managing boards and committees. Most seems to be using a combination of tools and manual work to cobble together a practice or a process, which may work in some cases, but it's not really driving a streamlined approach that can improve productivity and maybe free up your time for other priority tasks that kind of come up. Uh, we see a combination of ever-growing Excel worksheets that people have stored away with many tabs. It seems like for each year, kind of going tracking member details and their terms on that one. You might have various binders to organize application packages and having to remember to update any hard copies manually, kind of printing those off, kind of collating them, put them in the binder so that you have a resource to kind of go back to if you ever need to kind of reference any previous details on applications or applicant packages. We also see the utilization of many different software applications. So across the entire process, right? So you might be receiving applications via Outlook, and you might be updating an Excel spreadsheet, managing kind of the member side of things. So you're using different software applications, and really can be a little bit of a pain to kind of manage it all in various areas and having to forgetting to update a certain area, or maybe you've updated one application and not gone on to the other, and something's come up and then you might forget to kind of go back to it. So it can be a real pain on that front. We understand that your time is valuable when especially if you're coming up to recruitment deadlines and they're approaching. You can find yourself feeling like our friend in the photo here, kind of thinking everything's fine, but really you have a lot left to do and not a lot of time to kind of get to it. So a solution can kind of help around some of these challenges, but let's kind of delve into those challenges a little bit more with my friend George here. So challenges around board management. It's a lot of information. The amount of information you're managing can be a lot, whether it be, as I said, updating website information with new board and committee details, or maybe just the overall clerical work, managing all these different facets. It's a lot to have on your plate, and we know kind of the sooner you can get stuff completed, the sooner you can get to the next item that you're ready for.
It's also hard to track expiring terms. So from what we're hearing from customers, sometimes it's a very manual process. So some customers are lucky, they work on a schedule, so they do recruitment once every 4 years, every 2 years. Sometimes it's staggered. Sometimes they do around every year. Sometimes they're constantly recruiting. It's just you never know when somebody's going to drop out. If you have a larger organization, you probably see this more often than not, where other priorities kick in, or you just find that certain individuals cannot serve on the board and committee any longer. So you're tasked with now replacing this individual on the fly. Or in the case where these individuals have joined in maybe late, or their expiring term ends before a lot of other members on the boards or committees. So it's one thing to try to stay on top of things manually. So if you're tracking your expiring terms through a document somewhere, Excel, really if you're doing it that way, it's because you probably don't have any other option or any other way to do it. And you really have to make sure that this is something top of mind for you. So knowing that I have to go in every month or every other month or every 6 months just to make sure there's no expiring terms coming up, that could be tedious. That could allow for a lot of human error. So for once, I'm going to promote being reactive instead of trying to take initiative. So in this case, if you have a system like this, it can actually inform you when those expiring terms are coming up. So you don't have to set a schedule for yourself to go and check when is my next round of applications or recruitments coming. The system will notify you. Let's say you want to know 90 days before some individual or some vacancies is about to make its way into the system. You can set it so that the system emails you letting you know that this individual's term is expiring in 90 days. And now you must post a vacancy and start that process instead of having to rely on your Excel sheets, your alarms, or anything else. This is a system, a technological system can automate that process for you.
Yeah, thanks, George. So another item that kind of comes up in discussions is around the difficulty to manage and track all the applications submitted for open vacancies. When you have a vacancy or you're having a recruitment drive, can be a lot. You got a lot of spinning plates. You need to kind of get that information and organize it, whether that's applications being received via email. Maybe there are hard copy applications that are kind of mailed in still. Getting all that organized can take a lot of your time. And we want to be able to, as I say, streamline that approach on that front. So the ability to manage and track applications is another challenge that we've seen kind of pop up throughout our various conversations as well.
Also, getting applications in front of your decision makers, that can be a time-consuming process. Again, most of the customers that we speak to, a lot of them actually don't have much involvement in processing the information. They simply take the applications, create a package, and send it out to their city council or whoever's in charge of appointing these individuals. So one less thing for you to have to do is compiling all these applications, sifting through information, and deciding what works, what doesn't. A system can automatically compile all that information the way meeting manager or report manager compiles reports for you. The system itself can compile an applicant package with a click of a button that you can just generate PDF file, send it out to your specific meeting that you want to discuss it in, and your job is done at that point.
Awesome. Taking kind of all those challenges we described around various aspects of managing boards, members, and application vacancies, let's have a look at the board management in a digital age, how a digital solution can really help you streamline this process or kind of clean up and make things a little bit more productive for you. So what we can do is, with a digital solution, it can help in kind of many ways. If we're going to mainly be looking at helping streamline that process to improve that productivity, get you away from, as I say, spinning those plates and back to the many other tasks that need your attention. In that manner, we have various aspects that can help for that. Using a digital solution can help you track, manage, and publish your member or board details from a single tool, kind of one-stop shop in terms of being able to update board member pages, manage those boards themselves, whether you have various positions available for it. It's all kind of included in a one tool instead of kind of going from various other areas. You might have the ability to review or search or action applicants that can save a lot of time. You can set up email alerts in the application, as George had mentioned, when you receive those applications for you. And then with a few clicks, simply compile those into applicant packages with all the application and the resumes that go along with it, as George mentioned, in a PDF form that you can take to other meetings, or maybe you print them off and put them in those hard copy binders if you want to keep those for reference sake. You can also configure the system to use custom applicant statuses. So whether you prefer maybe a different term for approved, maybe you choose accepted as opposed to approved on certain levels. The system is really flexible in terms of its configuration on that side of things, that we can help kind of coalesce and say, hey, you use these certain terms with your process, we can build those in as needed. So a little bit of flexibility on that front to really tune the system to kind of your needs.
So a digital system as well can also help with the sharing of your information with your public. Depending on your organization now, some municipalities or some organizations have a dedicated page where they share information about boards or committees. Sometimes they have information about vacancies that are available. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they just do that directly through ads in a newspaper. So depending on where you are on the scale, it's going to be very effective and nice to have a central solution that communicates with the tool that you're using to manage this process. So imagine having a tool on the back end that helps you manage all these vacancies, the board information, applicant information, but at the same time, just like eScribe's meeting manager allows you to publish that out to your website with a click of a button. Any sort of changes to your board information, any changes to your board members, and forgive me if I'm confusing you by saying board members or board information. I use board and committee pretty interchangeably just because they're technically both the same thing in the system here. But having the ability to just publish changes that need to be done through a click of a button, you don't need any additional resources to do that. Just the administrator in the system can go ahead and say, you know what, we've changed some of the requirements we need for individuals that are applying to a specific board. That can be done in a couple seconds, instantly published to your website, just like how our internet publishing site looks now. You will also have an iframe that you could put up on your site that will list out all your board information, all your member information. And if you opt in for the Board Manager Plus, it could also publish all of your vacancies and allow for those members to apply for those, allow for your public to apply to those vacancies directly through your website. Not only that, you could integrate this system with eScribe so that, let's say you're updating your committee of adjustment members. On the solution, you could go into the site for committee of adjustment, and you could connect it to that meeting type in eScribe, so that anytime you go ahead and publish a meeting on your public facing site and internal site, actually, you'll be able to see that there are meetings published. So you'll see that there's a meeting published for that specific committee on a specific date. And you'll also be able to see those agendas and minutes there as well. So there's a direct integration with eScribe's meeting manager. You simply just link up the committee or board in this solution to the meeting type and meeting manager, and that'll allow for the public to get access to those agendas and minutes and meeting dates as well.
Let's look at some board manager benefits, and starting off with the staff.
Excuse me. So in terms of benefits for staff, we've covered a lot of these points already, but streamlining and automating process will allow for you to focus on more high value tasks. None of this going back and forth between your binders, your emails to send out notifications, thanks to whoever for submitting your application form. Individual so-and-so, you've been approved, you've been rejected, you no longer have to worry about that. It's all sort of taken care of with the automated system. So these small tasks that you have to do and sometimes just become menial and repetitive, a lot of that is cut out, leaving you with just the core of the work that needs to be done. And it's going to leave you better for it at the end of the day, because it's going to be an easy system that you could use. And you won't have to deal with any of the repetitive stuff that sort of grinds you down over time. Definitely easier to share information with council. Again, a couple clicks just to produce an applicant package. All of a sudden you have a PDF document with all the applicants, the resumes, how they answered questions, and so on, all in a single folder or a single file that you can just go ahead and add to an agenda or push out to whoever needs to see it. The automation of tracking, the automated tracking of expiring terms. This is what I mentioned earlier. Having the system remind you that there's an expiring term is very different than you having to set reminders for yourself to do so, because we're all susceptible to getting busy, doing things, things getting in the way, maybe even starting that task and then being sidetracked by something else, and then you lose sight of that. So having the system automatically remind you that there's something that you need to do will be a really good tool for you just to stay on top of what needs to be done. And it goes without saying, the idea here is to get rid of paper-filled binders, and I'm sure you're completely sick of looking at those too. So a system like this can really eliminate that process, set you up with a single solution that can manage what you need to do internally and share all that information to the stakeholders that are involved, with very minimal input from outside individuals. The system may require maybe 1 or 2 individuals to manage it, and that's it.
Great.
What about the public, Chris?
Yeah, so looking at the public side of things, board manager kind of, let me just click on that, allows for pretty, as George mentions, easy access to that information on your website for the public. If a member of the public is looking for information, they have kind of one area to go on the site via that iframe George had mentioned to really look at what the details published to that website without having to maybe go through multiple pages. Say you have maybe there's a high school student who's doing maybe a civics paper, and they'd like to know a little bit more about their board or a member on the board, and they wanted to reach out to them. They can navigate to that website and easily find that information, get maybe if you post their email address, if you want to, as I said, highly configurable in terms of some aspects of it, but they can have their email address there. They can have different details, a bio for the member there that they can easily reference if they wanted to reach out, ask some questions around it. So really useful in terms of the access available to the public and getting information around their boards and members that are sitting on those boards. You can also put vacancies on the front-facing side for the applicants to apply to. It's a lot easier for them to go fill out a digital form, have that submitted on that end. Really, a digital application form, the submission process is handled all through one tool. So filling in your application, submitting it, going straight to the admin for action really helps, as we say, streamline that process and kind of takes out some roadblocks around that. And really, it doesn't always have to be specific to a board or committee when you're doing recruitment on that one. I had a colleague recently of mine working with a customer, and they really liked using the board manager tool for their recruitment drives, but had a student application process that was still in the manual work side of things. So he worked with them. And what they did was create a student application form customized with the questions needed, of course, and then link that to what we call a student application board that we would publish to that iframe. And what they did was create using our position tool, our position feature or management tool on there. They created positions for each one of them. So they had a student rep for the library, they had a student historical commission rep, among others. And really those students could then go ahead, navigate to the application form and apply directly from the website to be to help out in those roles. And then another thing to keep in mind is that those application forms can be utilized with multiple boards. So if that student was coming and they wanted to apply to multiple student rep to be a rep for multiple student boards, they can use one application form, select the different positions or boards they would like to serve on. Similarly, if there was a committee that a member of the public wanted to sit on, they can select the various ones. Maybe it's a planning committee and an audit committee, things along those lines that they can really use that one form. You don't have multiple forms to kind of go through and action on. It's just one that comes in, you action that as needed. So really, from the public, it is a great visibility tool on that front, whether it's the members, the board, or just simply trying to apply for a position that's available. So that will bring us over to our demo on that one. So I'll hand things over to George so that he can run through things with you, but we'll start off with a bit of an agenda that George will kind of run us through.
Thanks, Chris. So it'll be a pretty quick demo, but I'll cover everything you really need to see. So we'll go over the site. I'll show you all the main aspects of the system itself. We'll go over where you can review your board and member details. I'll explain the different user types that you have in the system and user management. Then I'll take you over to view the public view. So what your public would see if they're going to review your member information, your board information, or if they're just simply trying to figure out what vacancies are available. And then the whole managing of vacancies and applications. I'll walk you through that process, how to create an applicant package, and how to manage those applicants in the system so you know exactly where each individual is in the application process. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into the demo. Chris, if you can share access with me, please.
Gotcha.
So what we're looking at right now is the board manager system. This is what we call our board manager plus. So this system here will allow you to manage applications and vacancies instead of just managing the information of your boards and members. So right on the main page here, what you're looking at is quick access to a list of your vacancies, quick access to a list of your applicants, and any immediate expiring terms that are coming up. We have this set up to show up any expiring terms within the next 90 days. That is a setting, so you can change that to the next 30 days, to the next year, really completely up to you. Anytime an expiry shows up or hits that timeline, it will show up there for you, so you have quick, easy access to know exactly what you need to action. Right off the bat, you got a list of your boards on the left-hand side, a list of members on the right. And at any point, these plus signs should look familiar to you, just like Meeting Manager. Click on this, you could add a board. You click on this, you could add a member. So let's say I want to just figure out what's in this menu. So we have the same hamburger menu on the left-hand side that you're used to. Quick access to boards, members, vacancies. There's also a tab for analytics. So these are quick reports that you could pull up. If you ever need to get a list of the members in your system or vacancies available in your system, it'll compile a list of that directly through Excel, download it, and then you could use that and sift through the information the way you like. Also on the top here, you have your home, you have your settings. So these are things that you can really set and forget right off the bat. Role management, so you can set up what type of roles you want in the system, what type of positions are available for those specific boards and committees. Vacancy status management. So this, you can set this up to show where each applicant is in the application process. So these are just manually created, I guess, steps or what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe where a person is in the process. So you could see some are approved, pending, rejected. Let's say an individual needs to go through an interview with a mayor before being approved to be added to a board. You could add that in here as well. So you can set up a whole bunch of different statuses just to help you keep track of where everything is. Another great thing that we have here is that email notification setup. So if you'll take a look at this list, these are all of the automated emails you can set up in the system. So anyone going through the process that, let's say we received an application, you can send out an automatic email saying your application has been received. If a board member is removed, if a board application has been rejected. And these are all custom messages. You could set it up right off the bat. It'll input the individual's name, the board that they applied to it, that they applied for. So very minimal setup on your end, but a great tool nonetheless to minimize, again, those menial tasks that you have to do associated with this process.
Right. And if you saw a couple of those, sorry, George, that had the NA next to them, those are default emails that are kind of sent out. Yeah, thanks, George. You can't toggle those ones on and off, but those are the kind of the important ones that we think are necessary for when doing recruitment drives, or items that or events that we think are kind of important to receive notifications on. So just a little bit of a kind of tip if you saw that NA next to certain items there.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also the fact that you could set it up so that it sends the administrators emails as well. So if you're also looking for a reminder for yourself, for any of these tasks that's associated with it, let's say a board member was removed, let's say their term was expiring, you could set it up to send that board member an email as well as the administrator, which could be yourself, just so you know exactly what's happening on the back end and you're not left behind. You're not sort of guessing at what's happening in the system.
Yeah, great point, George.
So let's hop into one of these boards just to see what it looks like. So we're going to go into the Agricultural Services Committee. I've used this one for many demonstrations. I beat this one down like crazy. So you're going to see a whole bunch of applications. But right off the bat, I have access to change any board information here because I'm a board administrator. So anytime I'm in here, if I need to make changes, I can make changes to term lengths, limit, board size, because I have the permission for that. If I want to make any changes to just the summary of the committee, I can do that here as well. It's as simple as clicking on it, inputting your information. If I have this already published, so you can see that I have the option to unpublish it. So this is already published. Any changes I make now will automatically refresh on the public side. I will not have to unpublish and republish it. Now, a lot of these fields are not mandatory. There's some mandatory and some custom. So depending on what information you want to share or what information you want to hold back and track internally, you could decide which fields are published to the publishing site and which ones remain internal for just these administrators. So things like stipend, for example, compensation. I'm sure you wouldn't want to share that information out. It's an option if you'd like to. But this is just information to help you track internally. But on the public facing site, and I'll show you that in a second, you'll see that most of these fields are not there. Maybe just quorum, additional information, eligibility information. Those are the type of things that you'll likely want to share with the public if they're reviewing this board or commission. Right. Then you got your permission. So you have two different types of permissions in the system. You have your board admin and you have your applicant admin. A board admin will allow for anyone to go in and change details about a specific board or committee. An applicant admin will allow this individual to review applications and manage those applications through the applicant process. You could be both, you could be one or the other. It's really up to you how you set that up. Here's where you tie this specific board or committee to your meeting site. So you can see that these are all meeting types in eScribe. So Accessibility Advisory Committee, if you have the same meeting type in eScribe, you can connect them. Now they're going to speak to each other. And you could see that at the bottom here, you'll get your calendar with any upcoming previous meetings. Also searchable. So let's say I'm looking for minutes. It can take me back to the last meeting that I published that had minutes back in January 31st. You could click on that and you could get that PDF right away. Here's a list of all of the board members. Now, you could see that some of these are just white. Some of them are highlighted. So this is an expired term. So your list can actually show all of your active terms and all of your expired terms, or if you just want to show you just your active terms, you can do that as well. But every individual in here will have an associated position, start and end time to their term. If it was a stub term or not. So if somebody was filling in for the last, let's say 4 months of someone else's term, you could assign them as a stub term. They're just going to complete that other person's term. It won't count as a term for that individual. You got to put your role in here. So whether they're a vice chair, chairperson, really whatever the role is in the board or committee. And then some action items on the right. So you could publish these individuals' information directly to that publishing site that I will show you very shortly. You could click to enable email notifications for these individuals. You can edit their information right through here, or you can remove them entirely. Now, let's say I wanted to view one of these individuals. Like, what is Nicole Aglin's credentials? How is it that she became the vice chairperson of this specific committee? I could click directly on the name. It'll take me to her page. You could ask these individuals to put up a little biography, so they could send that over to you. If you want to write it up for them, it's completely up to you. But again, a bunch of information associated with these individuals, biography, address, email. As much or as little of this can be published out to the public facing side as you would like. Again, completely configurable, up to you. And you could see a list of all of their active terms as well as their past terms. So now I see their credentials, what board she's worked on in the past, for how long, and under what role, and where she's currently acting as, I guess, a vice chairperson on which boards or committees. So she's already published. I'm no longer interested in knowing about Nicole because she seems overqualified. So we're going to go back. And this is the same for all of the board members. So you could decide which ones you want to view, if you want to publish their information out or not. These are just quick glimpses of how many active boards, expiring boards they've been on. Just so you have a quick idea, and then you could click in and get more details.
Right. I think, George, next to those options, they do have the ability to export those lists into an Excel file around that. So maybe you want to kind of create your own custom report in terms of the boards, or just kind of manipulate the data in Excel a little bit. You can always export it using those buttons next to the search field where you see XLS. Just hit that button. It'll do a bit of a data dump, and then you can take that data and make sure that you can clean it up, create your own report from that end. But I'll hand things back over to George.
Thanks, Chris. Now we'll go through the public facing side. So this is very similar to that publishing calendar that most of you already use. This could be set up as an iframe or a completely separate page, just like how it is now. All of this information is going to correlate to the information on the administrator page. So board information, member information, vacancies. If I go in here, that same board that I showed you before, missing a lot of those fields that we discussed. So really talking about mission, meeting information, and so on. No information about stipend or compensation. That's all been removed. So this is purely just for the public to review the specific board, its goals, the term lengths, limit, board size, all of the active members, and non-active if you're interested in that. And then you could review those agendas and minutes directly through here in upcoming meetings. Same with the member side. If I want to view a member, just click on the individual, very similar to the other view that we just showed. Little biography, and then you can see which active terms they have and past terms. And then, most importantly, what vacancies are available. So I can just minimize, go straight to the gut of this. I'm looking to apply for a board or committee to serve on. I could click straight into vacancies. I'll see that these are all the vacancies that are available right now on the organization's website. I'm just going to refresh this quickly. And if I click on any one of these, it's going to drop down and show me for the City of Richardson Zoning Board of Adjustment, there are 2 specific positions available, both for member. 1 here, 2 here. And these are just the different positions, but we could have multiple hirings for each of those positions. But in this situation here, we just got 1 position for an architect, 1 position for a chairperson. And maybe I'd like to apply for this role. Now, this form is as customizable as you'd like it to be. So there are mandatory fields that we have to put in here. So first name, last name, email address, confirmation of email. And in this situation, the address is mandatory just to make sure that this individual is a resident of that specific city. But these fields can be expanded. They can be added to. You could have drop downs. You could have yes, no's. You can have multi-select, a text box at the bottom that just says, hey, tell us a little bit more about yourself. What makes you qualify? So as many or as little questions as you'd like in this application form is absolutely possible. We work with you on that when we're going through the configuration process. This one here is set up so that I can apply to multiple boards through one application. So I came in to apply for the chairperson role. But at the same time, I don't want to go through this process 5, 10 times. So you know what? I'm just going to click on here and I'm going to see what other positions are available, because this will pretty much summarize all the available positions for me. So let's maybe apply to this and this as well. Confirm you're not a robot, and then you're going to apply, and that will automatically be submitted to the back end here where you have your list of applications.
And a good point there on the application side of things, George. On that form as well, say the member of the public filled it in. There is a little print option at the icon at the top right corner of that form. So if you did, if the member of the public did want to print a copy of the application form, they're able to do that as well. So they can submit digitally and then print the application as well.
Thanks, Chris. So now I'm sort of seeing my duties as an applicant admin. We want to figure out who applied to the Agricultural Services Committee for the chairperson role. And council is expecting me to create an applicant package to submit that. So I could see just at a glance here that we have 3 candidates. If I expand this information, I could see that this is position to be filled, number of positions, start and end time, and then the number of applicants. So it's just a summary. If I want to see the applicants, I can now see that it is George, Tommy, and James. They've all submitted an application for this role. Now, if I want to just get a quick glimpse at how they answered those questions on the application form, I can see every single field that's created on this form here and how they responded to that at a glance right here. So position, email, address, and it is mandatory for them to add the resume as we have it set up. So if I want to take a quick glance at the resume, I could download the PDF, view it that way. Or if you know what, we just know we have these 3 applicants, I just got to put them into a package for council, no problem. Let's just select all 3 of these guys, create applicant package. What information do I want on that applicant package? So you know what, let's put all of it. Let's get the name, address, email, the name of the board, field 1, and the time of submission and the resume. System's taking all that information now, compiling a package that makes sense. I don't have to manually take these application forms, the resumes, throw them into one document, convert it into a PDF. That's not a thing that you have to do anymore with a system like this. So now I have my most recent applicant package. I can click on that, open that up. So you can see we've created an applicant package for the Agricultural Services Committee for the position of a chairperson, term start and end, how many positions, and the number of applicants. And the format it'll take is the application form for the first person that submitted right there with all their information, followed by their resume. Let's just assume this is a resume. Then we got the next individual where how they answered those questions again, followed by the resume, and the third, and so on. There's really no limit to the amount of applications you could put on a package like this. So again, simple click of a button and you have everything ready at your disposal. Now, let's take a quick look at the analytics. And Chris, I'm going to ask you to chime in here if you don't mind.
Sure, yeah. So analytics is a great way to kind of pull information quickly into the system or from the system. So whether you're looking for a general board report, looking to export a details on maybe the board roster, or you need all your boards kind of pulling a report around maybe members on that front, or custom details on the actual expiring terms that are coming up for members. You can click on each one of these different types of reports here, and it will generate a report that you can then take. You can update, manipulate any data on that front, but it really helps streamline the processes instead of having to, as we say, with the current manual process, have to have excess documents that you have to all combine into a PDF form, or really copy and paste data into other programs to generate a report. With the board manager solution, you can kind of do that with a couple clicks. Whether we have that board report, whether it's the roster or just general details of the board, the member report, if you're looking at terms or expiring terms, or if you're just looking at vacancies, what vacancies are open, what applicants have kind of applied for different positions. And essentially, as George is demonstrating here, you just click on that report, hit the download button, and it will spit that out in a Excel file that you can open up and then start manipulating the data as you need to. If you're kind of sending this over as a report, maybe to council or a committee or a different board, just for tracking purposes, maybe to kind of file somewhere else. It's really easy, really simple. It gives you all the information that you need that has been entered into the software platform. And then that way you can go ahead and use that to your discretion.
Thanks, Chris. So that pretty much wraps it up for the demonstration. It gives us just enough time for a quick Q&A. So what I'll do here is I'll stop sharing and I'll pass it back on to my friend Chris.
All right. Okay, so then I will go ahead and I will share my screen. Yeah. So before we jump over to the Q&A portion of today's session, I just want to kind of remind you on that front that we have two flavors of Board Manager. We have Board Manager Lite and Board Manager Plus. The Lite option, we understand that maybe you don't need the full vacancy recruitment application process. Maybe you just want to make available your board information, your member information, be able to search, manage, track the expiring terms for your members, set up email alerts so that you know that when expiring terms are coming up, and then just maybe integrate with eScribe, as George had shown. We do have the ability to have the meeting type in eScribe associated with that board or committee, and have the publishing details, whether they have the agendas, the minutes associated with those meetings directly on your board page. So the Lite option's great at getting started with that. It's always upgradable to the Plus version, which includes the vacancy side of things for application forms, vacancy management, putting those applicant packages together. So kind of two flavors when it comes to it. It's really how you want to approach your board management, or being able to surface that for your public. And really, we're always open to chatting with you about your process, how you currently do your board management, and see how that can align with a board manager solution, whether that be Lite or Plus. So I would encourage you guys to look at the slide and let us know what you think. But I'm going to jump over to our next steps on that end. So George, maybe I'll pass it back over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So just for anybody in attendance today, or everybody that's getting a copy of this demonstration later on, we are offering an exclusive promotion going up until December 15th, where you receive 15% off of the annual costs for this. So anything you expect to pay this year, next year, the following year, we can permanently remove 15% of that cost if you can make a decision by mid-December this year. So if anyone's interested, let me know. I believe we're going to be running a poll right now just to see if anyone wants to have a quick direct contact from myself after the session. If not, no problem. But yeah, it's a really good chance to get in on a discount that can stay with you for quite a while.
Right. So I've opened the poll up. If there's anyone who wants to kind of submit their votes, that'd be awesome. I'll keep the poll open for another kind of minute or so on that one as we jump over to our next page here, and we open up the Q&A side. Let's see if there's any questions that we can help with. Feel free to populate those if you need to. I don't see any right now, but go ahead. The question and answer is now open. We've got some votes coming in too. That's awesome. Don't see any questions so far. Okay. So we've got full participation on the poll. So thanks everyone. I do appreciate that. I'm going to close off the poll. I don't see any questions right now. But as always, feel free to reach out to George or myself on that front, or maybe your CSM directly. They can loop back with George, get him involved. And we're always happy to answer any questions that you might have or conduct maybe a one-on-one demo and talk things through further. But considering that, I'm going to go over and we are going to click on the next. Oh, let me see. There we go. Well, wanted to wrap things up and thank everyone for joining us today for today's webinar. George, thank you for driving the demo on that front. And as always, let us know, George, if there's anything else you want to kind of chime in on this final piece.
Yeah, I'll just throw in one last comment here. So Board Manager used to be, I guess, a module that would take a bit of time to implement. So it was one of those things that customers would say, you know what, we don't have the resources to do it right now. We require too much time of our staff. We have had a little bit of a process change internally, which has solidified the process of implementing Board Manager for customers. So we could say it's a lot less, it requires a lot less involvement from the customer. Typically, we'd say we just need about 3 hours of customer time to implement the system like this. And that's for the plus. If it's not the plus, if it's the light, you could probably get it done in less than that. So if you have 3 hours split up between a couple days, a couple months, a couple weeks, no problem. We could have the system up and running for you. Considering that there's some of our US customers that are going into elections next year, it could be a good time for us to roll something like this out, just so that once you go about recruiting for those positions during the election period, you'll have a system like this up and running and ready for you. Aside from that, thanks everyone for attending the session. Thanks, Chris, for leading the slides today. My information is right there for anyone that needs it. If you guys would like to have an in-depth discussion or go over some of the key talking points throughout the demonstration, I'm happy to run that through with you on a one-to-one basis. But aside from that, again, thanks for joining today, and we hope we see you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.